The void of space was quiet, but the quiet was never trusted. In the far reaches of the Zalorian Empire, silence often meant something was wrong. For years, the great scanners on the edge of the border had reported the same readings: dust clouds, drifting comets, and the slow hum of alien patrol ships. It was routine, predictable, and safe. But on this day, the scanners showed something else. At first, the officer in charge thought the machine was broken. The signal was strange, pulsing with power that the Empire had never measured before. It looked like a warship's signature, but one that did not match any known design in the galaxy. The officer frowned, checked the system twice, and ordered a recalibration. Still, the signal remained. Stronger. Closer. He whispered the words that would soon echo through the Empire. Something is here. Within moments, the command bridge of the border station filled with noise. Officers rushed to their consoles. Screens flashed red warnings. Reports streamed in from other stations along the border. They too had detected the same thing. A single object, massive in size, moving at a speed that should have been impossible. The commander of the border fleet arrived. His four eyes blinked as he studied the readings. His voice shook with disbelief. "That is not one of ours. That is not anyone's." Then came the confirmation. The object slowed. Its shadow emerged from the dark between the stars. The border station screens lit up with its outline, and every officer fell silent. It was a warship. A colossal warship. Its surface was sharp, metallic, and layered with strange armor that reflected starlight like a blade. Lights glowed from thousands of windows across its hull. And at the rear, two massive engines burned with a blue fire unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. The commander's voice dropped to a whisper. "It is human." Those words spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the news traveled across the entire border fleet. Soldiers shouted in disbelief. Pilots tightened their grips on their controls. Every memory of humanity came flooding back. The wars long ago, the battles where human ships had destroyed fleets many times their size. To the Empire, humanity was not just another species. They were a terror, a story told to scare cadets, a reminder that some enemies should never be provoked. But no one expected to see a human warship here. The Empire had always believed humans were far away, locked in their own sector, surrounded by barriers of space that no alien dared cross. The Zalorians had written entire treaties based on the belief that humans would never reach this far. And yet here it was, floating, watching, silent. On the border station, panic spread like a wave. One officer cried out, "How did it get past the Great Barrier? No ship can cross that space. It is impossible." Another whispered, "If one has come through, more may follow." The commander raised a hand, trying to control the fear in his ranks, but even his own voice trembled. "Signal the Empire. Alert the High Council. We have seen the impossible. A human warship is in our territory." The message was sent. Across the Empire's networks, alarms echoed. Admirals were pulled from their chambers. Politicians were dragged from their meetings, and even the Emperor himself was woken in his palace. The first reports were dismissed as lies, the second as errors. But when the third and fourth stations confirmed the same sighting, there was no doubt left. The panic grew real. In the palace chamber, the Emperor's advisors spoke over one another. "If this is true, our fleets must mobilize. Humans are dangerous. One ship could destroy an entire sector. No, perhaps it is lost. Perhaps it is damaged. We must not provoke it." But no one knew the truth. The human warship gave no signal, no answer, no message. It simply floated, as if it had chosen this border as its stage. The Empire could only watch. Back at the border, alien civilians began to whisper. News always leaked, even when the Empire tried to hide it. Traders told stories of a ghost ship with engines of blue fire. Children repeated the old legends of humans, their wars, their merciless victories, their refusal to surrender. Mothers told their families to stay inside, as if that could protect them from what was coming. The border commander stared at the massive ship on his screen. His heart pounded in fear. Every instinct told him to order his fleet to fire. But he knew the stories. Firing first against humans never ended well, and this ship, whatever it was, looked far beyond the Empire's designs. Its armor seemed alive, its engines burned like suns, and the silence it kept was more terrifying than any weapon. Hours passed. The ship did not move. The Empire's fleets gathered, surrounding the border sector, ready for battle yet afraid to act. The alien soldiers watched their screens, waiting for a sign. Every second of silence only deepened the tension. One young officer finally spoke the question none dared ask. "Why is it here?" The commander did not answer. He did not know, but in the depths of his mind he feared the answer more than the silence, because if the humans had come this far, then they had crossed every barrier the aliens believed in. If they could appear without warning, then nowhere was safe. The commander looked again at the blue burning engines, and his words were heavy. "We thought humans were far away. We thought they could not reach us. We were wrong." The warship drifted closer, its shadow covering the alien fleets, and the first part of the story came to its end. The Empire waited, terrified of what would happen when the humans finally chose to speak. The alien reaction, the human warship did not move. It floated like a ghost in the stars, its silent presence pressing down on the border fleets of the Zalorian Empire. Every passing hour stretched like a blade across the nerves of the commanders. It was not only the soldiers at the border who trembled. The entire empire now held its breath. In the capital city of Ithora Prime, the great council chamber filled with noise. The High Council had been summoned without warning. Long tables shook with the arguments of old senators, their voices overlapping, their hands striking the polished surface in anger and fear. One senator cried out, "We must strike first. If this ship belongs to the humans, then it is already a threat. They have brought their war into our skies." Another shouted back, "You fool! Do you not know the stories? Do you not remember the last war fought against them? An entire fleet burned in a single day. If one warship can cross into our territory, then they have more. This ship may only be a signal of what follows." The Emperor himself sat at the far end of the chamber. His golden eyes were narrow, but behind them there was unease. He raised a hand and the noise died down. His voice carried like a blade cutting through the chamber. "We will not act with fear. Not yet. This is not just an enemy ship. This is a message. We must learn what it wants before we decide how to respond." But even as the Emperor spoke, the councilors whispered among themselves. Some believed the humans were scouting for invasion. Others feared the warship had come to test their defenses, to measure their weakness. A few even wondered if it was not a warship at all, but a weapon sent to punish the Empire for sins long past. Outside the chamber, in the streets of Ithora Prime, the people already knew. Rumors traveled faster than commands. The markets buzzed with fearful voices. Old veterans swore they had seen ships like this before, machines that cut through fleets as if they were made of glass. Mothers held their children close. Traders whispered of abandoning the Empire altogether, fleeing to distant colonies where humans had never gone. Back at the border, the fleets grew restless. Hundreds of ships now formed a wide circle around the human vessel. Their weapons glowed. Their crews were tense, but no one dared fire. The border commander stood on his bridge, his claws digging into the arm of his chair. His officers were pale with fear, their eyes fixed on the silent warship that hung like a predator in the void. One of his aides spoke in a low voice. "Commander, the soldiers are restless. They ask if we should fire warning shots." The commander shook his head slowly. "No, if we fire, we begin something we cannot control. Look at it. That ship has not moved, not spoken, and yet it holds us all like prisoners. It wants us to act first. I will not give it that satisfaction." Yet deep inside, even he wondered. What did it want? Why did it stay silent? Across the Empire, messages poured in. Admirals argued over strategy. Scientists demanded data. The Emperor demanded patience. But patience was a thin shield, and the warship's presence ate away at every mind that tried to understand it. At one outpost near the border, a group of young cadets stared at the ship through a viewing window. Their voices shook as they spoke. "It looks dead," one said. "Dead things do not burn with fire like that," another answered. "Maybe it is waiting for something." "Waiting for what?" The last cadet whispered, "Waiting for us." The Empire's best scientists worked without rest, analyzing every fragment of data sent from the border. They studied the shape of the ship, the glow of its engines, the strange hum of its energy field. But the more they studied, the less they understood. One scientist finally admitted what many feared. "This ship is beyond us. The energy it carries is older and greater than anything we have built. If it is truly human, then humanity has advanced far beyond what we believed." The council grew more divided with every hour. Some begged the Emperor to send peace envoys. Others demanded war. The Emperor remained still, his eyes locked on the reports, his mind heavy with doubt. He knew that one wrong decision could decide the fate of his empire. Back at the border, the tension reached its peak. The alien soldiers, exhausted and afraid, stared at the human ship as though it were a nightmare given form. Their claws twitched, their tails lashed, their hearts thundered. Yet the warship only watched. Then, in the deepest hour of the night cycle, the unexpected happened. A signal appeared. At first, the border fleet thought it was a trick. A low hum swept across every channel. Then a series of symbols, unknown to any alien language, filled the screens. The symbols glowed in perfect order, like a code, like a message. Yet none of the Empire's computers could read it. The commander of the border fleet stood frozen as the symbols vanished, replaced by silence once again. "What does it mean?" his officers asked. The commander had no answer. But in his heart, he knew one thing. This was only the beginning. The aliens were terrified not just because a human warship had entered their space. They were terrified because the humans were speaking, and no one knew what words they were about to hear. And still, the warship did not move. The human mystery. The human warship hung in the void like a silent storm. The Zalorian fleet surrounded it, hundreds of ships forming a cage of steel and fire. But the cage felt fragile. It was as if they were children trying to trap a predator with paper walls. The signal it had sent still lingered in the minds of the commanders. Strange symbols, glowing and sharp, had flashed across their screens for only a few seconds before vanishing. Every scientist in the Empire tried to decode it, but none could understand. The symbols did not belong to any known language, and yet there was something haunting about them. Some officers swore they saw shapes that resembled eyes watching them through the screens. Others claimed the symbols pulsed with sound, as if they carried hidden voices. At the border command station, the fleet commander could not rest. He stood before the massive viewing window staring at the warship. His voice was low, barely more than a whisper. "It is not just a ship. It is a warning, but a warning of what?" Hours passed. The warship did nothing. No weapons fired. No engines roared. Yet its silence pressed harder than any attack. Soldiers grew restless, captains argued. Some demanded that they strike now before the humans revealed their true purpose. Others begged for caution, remembering every story of fleets crushed under human firepower. One captain finally broke the silence. He was bold, or perhaps only foolish. His scout ship moved forward, breaking the circle of the fleet. His voice rang out across the channels. "If the humans will not speak, then I will make them speak." The scout ship glided toward the warship, small and fragile compared to the vast machine of steel that floated ahead. Every eye in the fleet watched. Every heart pounded. The distance closed, 10,000 kilometers, 5,000, 2,000. The scout ship sent hails in every known frequency. No response came. Then it happened. The surface of the human warship shifted. Its black metal armor rippled like water touched by wind. The glow of its engines flared, and for a heartbeat the void itself seemed to bend around it. Strange waves of light danced across its hull, twisting and folding like living things. The scout ship froze, its captain's voice rising in panic. Something is inside the ship. His words cut off. On every fleet screen, the scout ship blinked out of existence. No explosion, no debris, no sound. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, as if the void had swallowed it whole. The fleet fell silent. The commander gripped the arms of his chair so tightly that his claws cracked the metal. His voice trembled as he spoke. "What did it do? Where did the ship go?" The officers shouted over one another, voices filled with panic. Was it destroyed? No, there was no impact. It was erased. The word erased spread like a plague through the fleet. Soldiers whispered it under their breath, as if saying it aloud would summon the same fate. The Empire's scientists reviewed the recordings again and again. What they saw only deepened the terror. The warship had not fired a weapon. It had not launched a missile. It had simply bent the void around the scout ship, folding it into nothing. "This is not destruction," one scientist said, his voice shaking. "This is something else. Something greater." They did not kill the ship. They took it, but taken where? No one could answer. Back at the council chamber, panic grew louder. The Emperor's advisors screamed for action. "This is proof. The humans have powers beyond our science. If they can erase one ship, they can erase an entire fleet. We must destroy it before it destroys us." Others argued in fear. "No, If we attack and fail, the humans will see us as enemies. If they have more ships like this, our empire will not survive a single war." The emperor listened in silence, but deep inside, even he felt the weight of dread. His people looked to him for strength, but how could he promise safety when a single silent ship had already unmade their courage? At the border, soldiers now refused to look directly at the warship. Some said it watched them even when they closed their eyes. Some dreamed of its glowing engines, blue fire burning through their sleep. Others swore they heard whispers carried through the static of their comms, whispers in a language they could not understand, but one that made their skin crawl. One young officer asked his commander the question everyone feared: "If one ship can do this, how many more are waiting behind it?" The commander gave no answer. He had none. The warship remained still, its engines glowing like silent suns. No weapons raised, no fleets deployed, no words spoken, and yet every second it stayed, the Empire grew weaker. Fear had already begun to break them, and the humans had not even fired a shot. Then, after 3 long days of silence, the warship moved. Not fast, not violent, but deliberate. Its engines roared to life, and the void shook with power. The fleets pulled back in terror, afraid that the humans were about to strike. But the warship did not attack. It simply drifted through the circle of alien ships, passing them as if they were not even worth its notice. For the first time, the aliens saw the full size of the ship. It was larger than anything they had built, larger than their capital carriers, larger even than the legendary fortress ships of their old wars. Its hull stretched into the dark, covered with markings too strange to be decoration, too precise to be random. Symbols burned faintly along its sides, symbols that looked alive. As it passed, the alien ships shook, their systems faltering, their lights dimming. Some ships went dark for minutes at a time, as if the human vessel drained their energy with its presence alone. No weapons fired. No battles began, but the message was clear. The humans did not need to fight. They had already won the moment they arrived. The confrontation, the human warship glided deeper into the Zalorian sector. It moved without fear, its engines burning blue fire, its massive hull cutting through the void like a silent blade. To the alien fleets that surrounded it, the movement was unbearable. For 3 long days, the ship had remained still, and its silence was terrifying. Now it moved, and that was worse. The border commander watched from his flagship. His crew whispered in panic. "It is heading toward the heart of the Empire. It does not fear us." The commander clenched his jaw. His claws dug into the metal arm of his chair. He had endured enough. The Empire was watching. The Emperor was watching. If he allowed this human ship to drift through their space unchallenged, he would be remembered as the commander who surrendered the Empire without a fight. His voice broke the silence. "Signal the fleet. Prepare for confrontation." Across the sector, thousands of ships locked into formation. Cruisers, carriers, and destroyers gathered in tight walls of fire. Their weapons hummed as they powered up, glowing with plasma, missiles, and beams of searing light. For the first time, the full force of the Empire stood against the human ship. But even as the fleets formed, the soldiers were afraid. Their hands trembled as they gripped their weapons. Some muttered prayers. Others whispered the same words again and again. "Do not let it notice me." The Emperor himself appeared on every command screen. His golden eyes glared with authority. "Zalorians, you are the shield of the Empire. This intruder has trespassed into our heart. We cannot allow this insult. We cannot allow this danger. Show the humans that the Empire is not weak." The order was clear. "Attack." The commander raised his hand. His voice shook, but his words were steady. "All fleets, fire." The void erupted with light. Thousands of missiles streaked forward, their tails blazing. Beams of energy cut through the dark, slicing toward the massive human warship. Plasma bolts slammed into its hull like thunder. The silence of space was broken by the fury of an empire unleashing its power. The aliens shouted with rage and fear, their voices filling the comms. "Strike it down, burn it! Do not let it live." The storm of weapons crashed into the human ship. Explosions lit its surface. Flames scattered across its hull, and shockwaves rolled through the void. The alien soldiers cheered, believing for a moment that they had done the impossible. But then the smoke cleared. The warship was untouched. Its black armor gleamed as if nothing had struck it. Its engines burned brighter than before, their light spilling across the fleets like a second sun. No crack, no dent, no damage. The cheers turned into silence. On the alien screens, a voice broke through. It was not the voice of a machine. It was not the voice of a translator. It was human. Deep, calm, and terrifyingly clear. "We did not come here to fight, but we are not afraid of you." The words echoed across every ship, every station, every command center. The aliens froze. Soldiers gripped their controls with shaking hands. Admirals looked at each other with wide eyes. The Emperor himself leaned forward, his throat dry. The human voice continued. "You test us. You measure us. You seek to know our strength. But strength is not what you should fear. You should fear why we are here." Then the voice vanished. Silence returned. The border commander's heart thundered in his chest. His officers stared at him, waiting for orders, but his tongue was heavy. How could he order another attack after that? The first strike had done nothing. Another would only prove how powerless they were, but the Emperor was not ready to surrender. His voice roared across the command channels. "Fire again! Do not stop until it is ash." The fleets obeyed. They launched another wave, more powerful than before. Carriers unleashed swarms of drones. Heavy cruisers fired their full reserves. The void turned white with fury. And again, nothing. The warship did not move. It did not fire. It did not even raise a shield. The weapons of the Empire struck like rain on stone, vanishing into nothing. Then for the first time, the human ship moved with intent. Its engines flared, brighter and hotter than before. The void shook with power. Slowly it turned to face the fleet. Its hull glowed with strange symbols, burning brighter with each second. Symbols that no alien could read, but that every soldier felt in their bones. The fleets fell silent. The human voice returned, softer this time, almost gentle. "Do not misunderstand us. If we wished to destroy you, you would already be gone." The fleets trembled. Some captains wanted to flee. Others locked their weapons but dared not fire. The commander could not breathe. His people had unleashed everything, and it had meant nothing. The Emperor, hidden in his palace far from the border, stared at the screens with wide eyes. His advisors whispered, but none dared speak aloud. For the first time in his reign, the Emperor understood the taste of fear. On the border, the human ship began to move forward. Slowly, steadily, it passed through the wall of alien fleets. No one dared block its path. Ships pulled back in silence, clearing away as if the warship were a god passing through a crowd. The commander whispered what his soldiers already knew. "We are nothing to them," and still, the human ship drifted on, silent and untouchable, its engines burning like stars. The revelation and cliffhanger: the alien fleets had fired until their weapons overheated, until their ships trembled, until their crews collapsed from exhaustion, and yet the human warship remained untouched. Not a single scar marked its surface. It drifted forward, calm and unstoppable, as if the Empire's greatest force was nothing more than mist in its path. The fleets parted like frightened animals. The warship moved through the gap in silence. No one gave the order to retreat, but retreat they did. Ships pulled back, leaving a wide corridor for the vessel that refused to be challenged. On the command deck of the border fleet, the commander could not lift his eyes from the screen. His voice was barely more than a whisper. "What do they want from us?" His officers said nothing. Fear had stolen their tongues. Then, without warning, every alien screen lit up. The human warship had sent another signal. This time it was not strange symbols. It was an image. Across the fleet, across the Empire, the same vision burned into their eyes. A world they did not know. A planet of blue oceans and green lands, circled by white clouds. It was beautiful, alive, untouched. For a moment, even the most hardened soldiers stared in silence, forgetting their fear, captured by the vision. Then the voice returned. Calm. Human. Cold. "This is what we protect." The image shifted. The blue planet vanished, replaced by scenes of war, ruined fleets, burning cities, craters where once there were worlds. Alien ships shattered into fragments. Armies reduced to ash, the voice continued. "This is what happens when we are threatened." The fleets trembled. Officers gripped their consoles as the images grew darker. It was not just destruction. It was erasure, complete and merciless. There was no doubt left. These were not illusions. These were memories. Proof of wars the humans had fought and won against enemies the Zolorians could not even imagine. The vision ended. The screens went black. The silence returned, but the voice came one last time. "We did not come here to fight. Not today. But do not test us again. The barriers you trust mean nothing. Your borders mean nothing. We are here now, and we will decide the future. Every fleet, every station, every colony heard the same words. There was no place in the Empire untouched by the human voice. Even the Emperor, seated in his golden palace, felt the chill of those words sink into his bones. The warship moved again. Its engines roared with blue fire, brighter than before, so bright that alien screens struggled to keep their sensors alive. It accelerated, cutting through the void with impossible speed. The fleet scrambled to follow, but they could not keep pace. In seconds, the warship vanished into hyperspace. Silence returned to the border. For a long time, no one spoke. Soldiers stared at their screens in disbelief. Officers tried to steady their shaking hands. The commander of the fleet leaned back in his chair, his body heavy with defeat. He whispered to himself, though the whole bridge could hear. It came, it showed us. And then it left. We are nothing to them. The Emperor called an emergency meeting in the Great Chamber. His counselors shouted, demanding answers. Some begged to sue for peace with the humans. Others demanded that the Empire rebuild stronger fleets, greater weapons, new defenses. But every voice was laced with fear, because all of them knew the truth. The Empire's strength had meant nothing. In the streets of the Empire, fear became fire. Rumors spread of human fleets gathering beyond the void, of warships waiting to descend upon the Empire's worlds. Citizens whispered of leaving their homes, of hiding in the farthest corners of space. Some prayed. Some cursed their leaders. Others simply sat in silence, knowing that nothing they did would matter if the humans chose to act. The scientists of the Empire studied the recordings again and again. They tried to measure the human ship's power, its engines, its weapons, its strange ability to erase a vessel without a trace. But their reports ended the same way every time. This is beyond us. We do not understand. We cannot fight this. In the palace, the Emperor stood alone at his window. He looked out across the shining towers of Ithora Prime, and for the first time in his reign, he wondered how long they would stand. His advisors begged him to speak, to reassure the people, but no words came. He had seen what everyone else had seen. He had heard the human voice. And he knew the truth. The humans had not come to destroy them. Not yet, but the humans had crossed the Great Barrier. They had entered the Empire's territory without fear. They had erased a ship with a thought, survived the fire of thousands, and left without a scratch. And they had spoken words that would haunt the Empire forever. This was only a visit. Next time, we will decide the future. The words echoed in every chamber, every fleet, every heart. The Empire had faced many enemies in its history, but never had it faced one like this. For the first time in centuries, the Zalorian Empire knew what it meant to be afraid. And somewhere, far beyond their sight, the human warship drifted through the void, silent and patient, waiting for the day when it would return.